It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligiero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're listening or watching. Glad to be part of your morning, afternoon, or night. Yeah. Or day, or tomorrow. We're glad you're with us, man. Special shout out to all of our new listeners on Holyfield Television. We're glad to be part of Holyfield TV's sports programming. And just a special shout out to you guys. Drop us an email. We'd love to hear how we're doing on Holyfield TV. And don't forget, if you want to watch or listen to our show on your phone or your handheld or whatever, don't forget to download our app. You can get our app right now by going to Fight TV. That's FITE.TV/Billy C. That's fight.tv/Billy C. Download our app today. Speaking of today, today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on beautiful St. Simons Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328. 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simons. I'm going to be going in a couple of weeks to get a good Italian meal. Believe it or not, I got to go pretty far. But he makes the best Italian cuisine, especially for all you WGIG listeners in Brunswick. If you haven't checked out Sal's, you're missing the boat, man. Take the 5-minute drive onto St. Simons Island and check it out. Sal's is right off of Frederica Drive. Visit the website for the address, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by Fire Fan. Hey, you like sports fantasy games? How about a unique approach to any sport? There's ways to make some money, and it doesn't cost you nothing as long as you log in and create an account through us. Just go to our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the Fire Fan banner. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by Gawkbox. What is it? Well, it can save you money, plus get you stuff for free, and help us out. So what's better than that? Two-way street. Go create your account right now for free. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the Gawkbox banner. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage, The Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can literally get a copy of it right now while you're watching or listening to this show by going to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. If you want to get a signed copy, don't worry about it. I'll hook you up. Just visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the book, which you can't miss because it's right there all over the page. Don't forget to put in the how you want it inscribed under the comment section. But anyway, coming up later on the show, we got Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard scheduled to join us in about half hour. Today my main topic, I got some emails to read, and we got some news coming up, and but today there's a lot of things going on, and we've been talking about several issues. Like the other day, we were talking about too many halls of fame. We were talking about, well, we are going to talk about today, different weight, same day weigh-ins, the benefits of those. And we had talked about that in the past, and I got some updates on that. But, one of the topics, big fight this weekend, several decent-sized fights. But I couldn't help but notice that the Terence Crawford against Felix Diaz fight, and also you got Gary Russell Jr. against Oscar Escandon and a couple others. But those two fights specifically, I couldn't help but notice how one-sided they are if you go to the sports books and you start looking at these fights. And these are championship fights. These are world title fights. And the odds makers have them so completely one-sided, it's really got me wondering. Our fights, especially title fights, they just don't seem competitive anymore. Yes, we got a great fight a couple weeks ago with Anthony Joshua against Klitschko, but they're far and few in between. For the most part, we got these fights that we're expected to watch that aren't even close to being competitive. When I take a look at the Terence Crawford fight, who's a fighter I absolutely love to watch, and he's in there with a guy who earned his shot based on, the sanctioning bodies and what have you, and Felix Diaz. My question really today is, does Felix Diaz even have a chance? When you look at, Oscar Escandon fighting Gary Russell, 100-1 odds that he wins. Does he have a chance? Joining me right now from St. Simon's Island is the man, the myth, the legend himself, a New Jersey Boxing Hall of Famer. He's a Guinness Book of World Record holder, and he can hand make you a coffee mug like you wouldn't believe. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, childrens of all ages, please welcome the one, the only, Sal Rocky Senecola. Good morning, Sal.
And good morning to you, Bill. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, my man. Not too bad. Sal, I can't help but get a little depressed. This year, like we were talking the other day off air, the year's half over already. But and we have been treated with some decent fights. There's no question about it. But I'm looking at the fights this weekend. Terence Crawford, for example, is fighting Felix Diaz. Both his titles, Terence Crawford's titles, WBO and WBC, are on the line against Felix Diaz, and the odds makers currently have Crawford as a 25-1 favorite in this fight. My question to you, do you think Felix Diaz has a chance at all in this fight? How accurate are these odds makers? And as a promoter, or even a television network, how are you supposed to bamboozle the fan base to try to make them think that this fight is going to be competitive? Or if we supersede all of those questions and we say this, our fights today, whether they're championship fights, whether they're just a regular fight, whether it's a elimination fight, whatever, are they all just showcases, Sal?
That's a big question. And I'll tell you what, you have some validity behind what you're, getting at. And when you see a fight with these kinds of odds, I'm one to believe at all times in any scenario or any situation on any given night, a fighter can be beat. It's like the old, this ain't your night, this ain't my night. Well, it happens. It happens. Is the likelihood of this happening with this Terence Crawford fight? No. That's why the odds are so stacked against his opponent. All I could say is let's see what happens. And, they tend to look like this is going to be a showcase for Terence Crawford. And for whatever the powers may be, it probably is. So he can be leveraged to fight somebody else that's going to be a big draw. And that's also going to elongate his reign up there. So, it's sometimes out of the fighter's hands, sometimes out of the momentum of where the stage of boxing is elevating or trying to move forward and become. It's a shame because, like I said, Billy, you and I talked hundreds of times off the air. What would we do different in today's boxing world? And yesterday I did that. I wrote down, some of the things that I wish we could do or wish we could see that might help in some of the steps. But it's many times it's the greed factor, it's the need factor, and it's the factor that we are going to see the best fights possible in not our agenda, but when the promoters and the match managers and the matchmakers and fighters wanted to make it happen. And so when I say in that phrase, we may not get the best fights that are potentially out there. We may get them after the fact. We may get them at some other time. But it's the game has become bigger than what most people can comprehend and do.
Well, it's it's as a result of all this. Oh, your mandatory is this one. Your mandatory is that one. And at the end of the day, the sanctioning bodies are cashing in. If you look at the big fights this weekend, Terence Crawford against Felix Diaz. Crawford's a 25-1 favorite. This was as of last night with the sports books. 25-1. To me, That's not a close fight. Gary Russell Jr. Going up against Oscar Escandon is a 100-1 favorite. I mean, obviously they're not giving Escandon much of a chance there. The co-main event in that fight in the middleweight division, Andre Durrell against Jose Uzugai, that's for an interim belt, and that's 16-1 as Durrell is the favorite. When you look at the fight that's taking place over in England now, Liam Walsh is home in the UK, and Gervonta Davis really had one good fight in his career in terms of a decent opponent. That was his last fight that he won the title. He's a 4-1 favorite, so that fight's somewhat closer. And then the closest fight of the major fights this weekend is taking place in Japan when Ryota Murata is a 3-1 favorite to take Hassam Nadam's WBA middleweight title away. Now, remember, it's the regular middleweight title. He used to be an interim title holder. Daniel Jacobs was the regular title holder. He lost that title to Triple G, who already was the WBA's super middleweight or middleweight super title, however you call it. And then they elevated Hassam Nadam from interim to regular. So, I mean, the WBA playing games with us. But when you look at these fights, that fight, the Hassam Nadam Ryota Murata and the Gervonta Davis are the closest ones in terms of the odds books. But when I take a look at the Terence Crawford, which, is a fight that most of us are going to see, Terence Crawford against Felix Diaz, I don't know how competitive this fight's going to be. Yeah, I mean, Diaz is got a couple of things going for him. He's a bigger fighter. He's in terms of weight, he's ranked at number 16 in the welterweight division. Now, this fight is being fought at the junior welterweight division.
Okay.
But he really his biggest fight, his biggest name on his opponent, or his biggest name on his resume, I should say, really was Lamont Peterson, in which he lost that fight. It was a controversial majority decision, right. But he does have wins over Emmanuel Larte, Adrian Granados, Sammy Vasquez, and Gabe Brasario. Those are all, in my opinion, his biggest wins. But does he really have a chance against Terence Crawford, who's got 4 years? He's 4 years younger. He's ranked at number 1 in this division. He's got a 3-inch height and 3-inch reach advantage. Plus, when you take a look at Terence Crawford's resume, Sal, I mean, you could make a case that really for the last 3 or 4 years he's fought nothing but the best competition. I mean, does Felix Diaz have a chance?
Well, that's why the odds are where they are. It looks like on paper, no, he doesn't. But like I said, paper doesn't know what's going to happen the night these guys enter the ring, and what's in their heart, what's in their mind, who's not feeling right about this, that, and everything else. There's a lot that goes into it. But, on paper, black and white, Terence Crawford should roll over this guy.
Yeah, well, he should. Let's hold that thought. We are going to take a short little break. We're going to take a short little break. And then when we come back, we'll finish that up. We got some other things to talk about. We got Larry Hazard joining us in a little bit. All of that is coming up in about 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C. Show. Glad to be with you today. Don't forget about getting a copy of my book. That's right. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can literally get a copy of it while you're watching this show. Just go to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com and pick up a copy today. You want a signed copy, just go to our website. I'm here with Sal Rocky Senecola. And Sal, when I take a look at this real quick, and I see Terence Crawford, arguably his last, first of all, when I look at Crawford, you go back to 2013, he fought Breedis Prescott. He was actually brought in as the opponent in that fight, and he won. And then they figure, okay, maybe he got lucky. And Alejandro Sanabria needed a win. And what do? They bring Terence Crawford in. He was an opponent for that one as well, and he stops Sanabria. Andrei Kilimov was a major player in the division in 2013. Now, we're talking about the lightweight division at that time.
Right.
Undefeated, 16-0. They bring Crawford in as an opponent again, and he wins that fight, right? So he earns himself a shot at a world title, the WBO World Lightweight title against Ricky Burns. He was the opponent in that fight. And he wins the title, beats Ricky Burns, and people finally realize, wait a minute, I think we got something here with this Terence Crawford, and he becomes the A side and finishes when he won that title against Ricky Burns, he beat Gamboa, Raimundo Beltran. He went up in weight, fought Thomas Delorme for the junior welterweight title, Derek Jean, Hammer and Hank Lundy. In the big fight last year in July, Victor Postal won a decision against him. And in his last fight against John Molina Jr., this guy has fought some pretty tough opposition, Sal. And, when I look at Diaz, no disrespect to him, but, Diaz is a southpaw. He's 33 years old. And his biggest wins on his resume, like I said, Emmanuel Larte, Granados, Brasario and Sammy Vasquez. Lamont Peterson, you could argue that he got robbed, but I think the odds makers are right. What do you think?
Well, I think it looks like that it's going to be a one-sided fight. It looks like you definitely have the talent, the skill, the ability in Terence Crawford, and I'm not going to say it's going to be a mismatch. I'm going to say that it's all looking like it should be leveraged for Terence Crawford to be dominant throughout the course of this fight, and only we could see when they step into the ring of battle, and when the bell rings, we'll see what comes out. And but black and white on paper, Terence Crawford should roll over this guy.
The thing that bothers me is that everything's become. We've been doing this show now 14 years, and you go back in the archives and you see a lot of times where my complaints have been too many showcase fights. You go to a specific network and all you're seeing is one side. I mean, you could argue up until really this year that the PBC was nothing more than a showcase for their fighters. That's obviously changed this year, but and the end of last year. So let's give credit where credit's due. But a lot of times these big fights, so-called championship fights, so-called premium channel big-time fights, when they're on HBO or Showtime. Even pay-per-views, we just recently saw that with Canelo Alvarez against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I mean, it was a showcase fight. What they weren't even competitive, no. And I think it's a shame. I think that the boxing fan can accept showcase fights until, it's on a major network or a cable network or a pay-per-view or a title even though we got a plethora of titles. I do believe that the boxing fan deserves competitive fights. What do you think?
Well, of course they do. I mean, that's what we definitely want to see, and we want to see the best of the best, fight each other. Does it have to be a war? Does it have to be a drag out? Have to be? No, it does not have to be that every time. But in between, definitely keep the level of excitement and that anticipation of seeing a showdown that's going to be out there. That's why they have some elimination fights. That's why they have some of these showcase fights. But, at this stage of one's career, you would look and you would hope that they'd be fighting the equal or better or in the ballpark kind of skilled opponent that's in front of them. But not always the case, Billy C.
We got another issue I wanted to bring up before we go to break and kick you to the curb for a little bit. But there was a fight that was scheduled for this weekend in California. And the main event, Giovanni Santillan, or Santillan, I should say, was supposed to be the main event. And apparently he was scheduled to fight Juan Garcia Mendez for some title or whatever. Not a world title, but the fight was supposed to be contended at the same division that Terence Crawford is fighting in, junior welterweight, 140 pounds. And Giovanni Santillan was having such a hard time making weight that dehydration basically pulled him out of the fight. The doctor said this guy's not going to be able to fight. I can't help but think of two things, Sal. One, same-day weigh-ins would kind of eliminate this. And the reason why I say it is it would force fighters to fight in their natural weight class. In other words, their natural weights boxing class, And I think that too many fighters today are trying to be big for their fights. In other words, fight outside of their natural weight, torture themselves to get down just to make weight. And then with the, game plan and strategy that they're going to be bigger come fight night. I think if they made same-day weigh-ins, we would eliminate these kinds of problems. What do you think?
Billy, that's what I'm an advocate for that all the time. I mean, I'll tell you what. You look back at one of my last fights in the 80s. I fought the number one ranked contender in the world. The winner of our fight was supposed to fight Pernell Whitaker. And that's a fight one day I could talk to you about. I don't know if we can go on there and say everything that was behind that fight, but you do know the story. Of what the mechanics and what was going on behind the scenes of that fight. But the bottom line is we had the day before weigh-ins. And you tell me Louis Lamelli as a lightweight, the guy's a middleweight, if anything. I mean, this guy blows up. how big he was the night of that fight. And you know what? That was the first time in my life on that fight alone um, that they implemented the day before weigh-in, and I was definitely not a big fan of it. And I think the same day weigh-ins, come on, this has been going on in boxing for generations and for decades. Why do they think they're going to give a guy 24 hours or actually 36 hours or whatever it might be to replenish and rehydrate and do everything else? You know what? Fight the fight the same night that you get weighed in the day before. I mean, the morning of. You know what? You still have enough time to put a bottle of Gatorade, to eat a little pasta for carbohydrates, have a little protein, and not come in the ring like a Gavone, but you could actually, feel better and rehydrate and do what you got to do, and not be 24 hours later a 20-pound heavier fighter, which some of these guys are, and that's not healthy either for them. Let's look at the other side of the coin. All right, you got the same heart, beating the same and pumping that same blood through all the mass, and all of a sudden you're shocking it. You're 25 pounds heavier than and going to exert yourself. There could be a case and argument for that too. Who knows? But I think the same day weigh-ins, you get on the scale, you get off the scale, drink your Gatorade, have a banana, have a bowl of pasta, whatever you got to do, and you know what? You should come into the ring that night, maybe 5-10 pounds heavier tops, and that's it.
What happens with the day before weigh-ins? Not only is it a safety issue like we're seeing here, but you got certain individuals, their bodies are more conducive to losing weight, water weight, or whatever you want to call it, and then putting it back on. So they're trying to get an edge. I get it. I understand. But I think that everyone tries to gain that edge, and you're putting yourself in danger. I think I would. And then when we're watching a fight, a welterweight fight, and come fight night, the guys are weighing 175 pounds. You got light heavyweights in there. And it just ruins the weight class. Why have weight classes then? And why do we need so many? I mean, if you're gonna have, if fighters are gonna do this, then we should go back to the 8 weight classes, because that'll make it more even. By having same day weigh-ins, I have the weigh-in in the morning or whatever. I know it's not as easy for the media and the television networks, but I think what we need is to start thinking about the safety of the fighters, number one. And number two, having realistic weight classes. A welterweight, 147-pound fighter should be walking around at about 150, 153. I mean, technically, and you stop eating the night before, you get on the scale, you weigh 147, and like you said, you hydrate up, you have a good meal, and you're back to that 153, 154 pounds. That's the max. But some of these guys are messing around with over 10 pounds at a time, and it's dangerous. And at the end result is that we don't have true weight classes. And then to top it all off, you're dealing with non-competitive fights. You're making guys that don't even have a chance physically and talent level wise. And they're still all going through this. Now, in the Diaz, Felix Diaz and Terence Crawford issue, I mean, Diaz, most of his career was fighting in bigger guys anyway, but still, I don't know, man. If safety's such a concern, like everybody says, instead of just saying it, why don't you make some moves towards it, right?
Well, exactly. And like we were saying, a fighter, I mean, as far back as the amateurs, when I was 16, going to the Golden Gloves and winning the Golden Gloves, you 24 hours before the weigh-ins. And as an amateur, we'd weigh in sometimes 2 hours before the fight. But that's amateur. All right. The other thing is, the morning of is more likely when a good weigh-in should be. And, usually 24 hours, you have a process they call dry out. What does that mean? You don't consume any liquids. You don't consume anything. You can suck on an ice cube. You can spit it out. You can do whatever you got to do, but you do not drink. So if you're 5 o'clock the next night, the day before the fight, you stop drinking. You stop doing everything else. And you will drop 6 to 8 pounds, and you'll be able to get on a scale the next morning, and because you're going to sleep off a pound, whatever it is. It's all calculated. You could do it, and then then you rehydrate yourself. but you're not going to come in 25 pounds heavier. You're going to come in maybe the same weight or 5 or 6 pounds heavier. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's the same thing. They have these stupid weight classes every 5-pound increments. It's ridiculous. All right? And then they have these catch weights in between. I tell you, want to know what's wrong? Okay. Let's point out one day about all the things that they've done to this game to tear apart the integrity or the mystique of what boxing truly is. They've made it easier. They've they've lowered the benchmark to accommodate more and more belts, more and more weight class, more and more of what boxing is not about. That's it.
Too many belts.
Too many belts, too many weight classes.
Too many weight classes.
Forget about it.
Too many sanctioning bodies.
Too many.
Too many claws in the cash cow. Too many everything except for one thing. There's too many of everything. Too many promoters. Too many networks. Too many sanctioning bodies. Weight classes, etc., etc. You know what? There's not enough of.
What?
Fighters.
Fighters.
I mean, you have all of this stuff and the lesser number of actual fighters in the fight game today. If you go back, I'm going to pull a Sal. I'm going to promote somebody for nothing here, but Mike Silver wrote a book called The Arc of, what was it? It was called The Rise and Fall of the Sweet Science, or The Arc of Boxing, the Sweet Science. I forget the name of it. But basically what he does is he points out statistically why boxing was better years ago, and the most alarming statistic was the amount of fighters that were licensed and the amount of fights that actually took place. But anyway, hey, Sal, we're going to let you go for a little bit, and we'll be back to you in a little while, all right?
I look forward to it. And one day, we're going to have a 6-point discussion of what you and I could do as far as getting boxing back on track.
Tell you what you can do, buddy. I'll tell you what you can do later. You know what I mean? But we'll talk to you in a little bit, my man.
Take care, buddy. We'll see you later.
That's Sal Rocky Senecola, and we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're scheduled to have Larry Hazard join us. So don't go anywhere because we will be back here. I'm going to say probably in like normal time. What do you think? Maybe 2 minutes or so. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We'll be back in 2. All right. So don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Have you heard? Proactive Plus is faster and better than ever. Stay tuned for a 1,000,000 bottle giveaway, and you'll also receive free shipping. Do you have troubled skin? Acne? Well, we have great news. With Proactive Plus, your acne can heal, and you can help prevent new breakouts from happening. Don't miss this limited time offer. Give us a call at 800-567-0214 because we're going to let 1,000,000 people try Proactive Plus risk-free and get 2 free gifts and also receive free shipping when you call right now. You heard it. This offer won't last long. So call Proactive Plus now and you'll receive a 60-day risk-free trial of Proactive Plus, 2 free extras, and free shipping. Call 800-567-0214. This is our exclusive radio offer, never on TV. Get your risk-free 60-day trial of Proactive Plus with free shipping. That's right, free shipping. Don't wait. Call 800-567-0214. That's 800-567-0214.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C. Show. Glad you guys are with us today. Yeah. Special shout out to all of our new viewers on Holyfield TV. We're glad to be part of Holyfield TV's sports programming. And like we always say, give us a shout, man. We want to hear from you. Drop us an email, billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. Well, joining us right now, he's a Boxing Hall of Famer and the New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, my main man, Larry Hazard. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Bill. How you doing?
Oh,
buddy?
Not too bad, my man. Not too bad. We got a couple of fights scheduled for this weekend, and some things are going on, and I got to get your thoughts. First and foremost, we have been treated so far this year with some decent fights and some not so decent fights, but for the most part, the one fight that sticks in my head already is obviously the Anthony Joshua Klitschko fight, which really jacked us all up. We're all psyched about that, and we did get a stinker with Chavez Jr. I don't know what he was trying to do against Canelo, but this weekend we got a couple of fights, and I just happened to start looking at the lines and what the odds makers see, and I see Terence Crawford's a 25-1 favorite over Felix Diaz. Gary Russell Jr. is fighting Oscar Escandon, 100-1 favorite. Andre Durrell, 16-1 favorite over Jose Uzugai. And so a couple of other fights that are a little closer. Gervonta Davis, 4-1 favorite over Leon Walsh. My point is we have all of these sanctioning bodies, Larry. We have all of these weight classes. We have all of these, networks. And the end of the story is we're still getting showcase fights shoved down our throats. I mean, fights sometimes just don't seem like they're competitive by plan. Like sometimes we get a competitive fight by accident. But what's your thoughts with these one-sided fights, or appearing to be one-sided fights?
Well, I've never understood how some of these guys could even have the audacity to get in the ring, and how they got there. You have Terence Crawford, and you have Gervonta Davis, and some of these other fighters who we know are very good fighters. And then when you look at sometimes the opponents who get a chance to fight for the title, it makes you wonder how it happened. I don't think it's going to be very difficult for anyone to determine the outcome of most of these bouts that are scheduled this weekend. I'm hoping for some surprises, because that will at least maintain a sense of legitimacy in the events. But with some of these odds, that's not likely to happen. So I don't know. These proliferation of these sanctioning organizations who actually now have to look for fighters to fight for their belts, and the standards are lowered because there are so many, and so it becomes a matter of business, and I think that's not a good thing for the sport of boxing. But until something is done about it, we're going to constantly see it, and it's going to continue on for who knows how long. Hopefully somewhere along the way, we'll see some change. But I don't see that in the very near future.
No, well, I remember a couple of weeks ago you and I were so excited because we disagreed on who was going to win the fight, and we're like, oh, that means it's competitive. Oh, yeah, and it's far and few in between. And you're right. There's so many sanctions. We were just talking before. There's so many sanctioning bodies. There's so many different weight classes. And we had Mauricio Suleiman on the show last week, and I asked him some decent questions, and one of them was about along the lines. You got to be careful with these guys, otherwise they'll never come back on. But and one of them was exactly that, and he was honest when he said, well, when we have to approve a fight, because I said, basically I threw at him, Larry, what we always talk about, the old school. You're an amateur, you turn pro, You work yourself as into a prospect category, then from prospect to a contender, then you climb the contention ladder up until you're number one, and you get a shot at a title. That's the dream way of the way boxing should be, and it's the way it used to be. And he says to me, basically, that he agrees, but unfortunately, because of all the sanctioning bodies, you got a guy that, is supposed to fight. Now, he's talking about a champion. You got a champion that's supposed to fight the number one guy. He doesn't want that fight. So if you don't approve him fighting number 8 or number 9 or even number 12, then they go and fight another sanction, go fight for another sanctioning body. So really, to keep everybody happy, they're basically letting the prisoners run the jail, and the end result is what we have. I mean, I'm okay with showcase fights, but when you make it to a cable network or you make it to a pay-per-view event or you make it to any kind of a title, even though we have so many titles now, I think that they need to be competitive fights.
I agree with you 100%, because, I've been saying for quite some time that there's rarely a real legitimate pay-per-view event today. I mean, and maybe I'm a little too old school, but that's what boxing is, man. Boxing is old school, and the only reference point that we have is maybe the decade before. When we look at, we talk about this all the time. When we look at fighters today, we rarely, guys like you and I would say, or I'll speak for myself, guys like me, I rarely compare fighters today, the so-called good ones, because the word great I do not use today. The good ones, I don't compare them with other good ones of today. I usually compare the good ones today with the great ones or the good ones from the decade past. This is the reference point, and this is my measuring rod for the so-called good fighters today. It's very rare that you can really compare fighters today against fighters today and come away with some semblance of how good that fighter is, because it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. The talent is not there. The talent pool is not there. And that's because I think there are so many sanctioning organizations at that upper level that, you get this whole population of fighters in there who are nothing but preliminary. Many of them are nothing but preliminary fighters. These guys are not champions. They haven't earned anything. They haven't even fought, any caliber of competition that can justify their positions in the rankings for the most part. Now Suleiman can come on there and say whatever he wants, about fighters going to other sanctioning organizations. Well, why don't the sanctioning organizations all get together and say, hey, let's put a stop to some of this, you know what I mean? And this is what we're going to do. That part is always left out. So I don't know where it's going to end, Billy. But like you said, we go on a high. A week or so ago, you and I were respectfully disagreeing with one another on, our take on some of these fights. And we felt so good about it because, why? We felt good about it because this is the way it used to be, when you couldn't predict and you can respectfully disagree with someone else who's a fight fan, or the guys in the barbershop, or the guy, guys just talking. You understand? You could respectfully disagree with them because that was the level of competition that was out there. And then everybody could, prepare for a real competitive fight. You rarely can do that today. And so we thought we were going in that direction again, and what do? They lower the boom on us, with what we see coming this weekend. So I don't know where it's going to end.
Well, it's hard. the sanctioning body. You're right. The sanctioning bodies, they have it in their hands, And like I was saying to Mauricio Suleiman the other day, I had put together a whole plan of how I could create a league, a professional league of boxing that would not interfere with the four major sanctioning bodies. They would still maintain their champions and sanctioning fees and everything else. And you would end up crowning a yearly champion in each division. And, it could work. The only thing you need is everybody willing to do it. And then, that falls into a whole nother issue. You got champions that would have to fight. The Super 6 tournament we had several years ago was great. But what we learned from it, and what the fighters and the managers and the promoters learned, was like, wait a minute, this is risky, and that's why those tournaments have kind of fizzled out. They're too much risk for these guys. And we've been talking lately about championship belts. It's like the kids playing t-ball. It's precipitation belts now. Just if you get into the sport and you get a federal ID card, you're gonna get a belt with it, and. It's a shame, but I got an issue that is right up your alley, and again, it goes to something that we've talked about frequently and in depth. But there was a fight that was supposed to take place this weekend out in California. Giovanni Santillan was supposed to take on Juan Garcia Mendez for some BS title, and they're junior welterweights. Now, what happened was. Yesterday, Giovanni Santillan failed to make weight. He had some doctors looking at him in the bottom line, and not that he had they were just doing some checkup weigh-ins to see if he was going to come close to making weight over the weekend. And he was dehydrated. He was already dehydrated and, passed out and everything else. And the doctor says, well, he can't fight. He's dehydrated, which brought me to the issue of, too many fighters today, Larry, are fighting outside their weight class. And do you think that it's a result of the day before weigh-ins, or the fact that everybody's trying to get the edge by being bigger than their opponents? So people that have the bodies that could actually dehydrate and get down 15 pounds for a weigh-in, and then all of a sudden be in the ring 20 pounds, 15 pounds heavier. I mean, and at the end of the day, we got guys that are fighting as welterweights. They're classified as a welterweight, but fight night, they're super middleweights, And don't you think that by having same-day weigh-ins might, maybe shut this down? And the worst thing about it is all the weight classes. If they were going to have the day before weigh-ins and fighters are going to dehydrate, then we don't need all the weight classes. We could go back to 8. What's your thoughts on all of that?
Well, first off, you have to sometimes take a look at the history of things, okay? The history of weigh-ins. Now, you know as well as I know that for decades, I'm going back to the days of the great fighters. From the beginning of boxing, they came with the weigh-in. The weigh-in was the day of the fight. So here we are decades later, and you might ask the question, well, how did we get to where we are? Well, you've heard me say it before. You remember something that happened in Las Vegas, Nevada, several years ago. A fighter named Dooku Kim fought a fellow by the name of Ray Boom Boom Mancini. And make a long story short, Kim ended up dying as a result of that fight. And so what happened? Word got out that Kim was out on Las Vegas Boulevard the day of the fight or whenever, okay, with a rubber suit on, running, trying to lose weight to make weight. So a doctor in Nevada named Flip Hermansky came up with the idea, or whether it was based on medical science or whatever, that there was a dehydration issue, the brain, he couldn't rehydrate in time, etc. All this other BS that went with it, okay? So all of a sudden, all of the sanctioning organizations, all of the caretakers of boxing, okay, decided they were going to fix something that really was never broke in the first place. So we're going to change the weigh-ins now to 24 hours before or the night before. They actually used to have a time allotment. It was 7 o'clock in most jurisdictions the day before, the night before. Okay? That's how we got to all of this mess. And you've heard me say time and time again that the caretakers in boxing, and however they got there, somehow have this thing about looking for things to break so that they can take credit for fixing. There was never anything wrong with having same-day weigh-ins for decades, okay? When did the problems all start? When you changed it. When you went and started tinkering with something that wasn't even broke in the first place, okay? The same thing that happened during that time, we went from 15-round championship fights to 12 rounds because some smart person said, well, 15 rounds is too much. Well, really? 15 rounds, you know, those were always the championship rounds from 12 to 15 for decades. All during the reign of the great fighters, it was 15 rounds. Well, we know at one time, you know, fighters fought for 40, 50 rounds. But we don't need to go to that extreme. Same-day weigh-ins, in my opinion, is the way to go to clear up all of this mess. You understand? Fighter comes in the morning of, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They weigh in, okay? And then they still got most of the day to rehydrate, take some of the, drink some of these fluids that they have or whatever, to get themselves back to stabilization, and you go on with the fight. And I guarantee you that you won't see these problems like you see them today.
No, and the thing is they may have to, stop eating the night before the weigh-in, but they can't get too crazy because, they'll be too weak for the fight. By giving them that extra 24 hours, and like in this case with this fighter that was scheduled to fight this weekend, he obviously was having trouble making weight, so he started that dehydration and suffering earlier, with the hopes that he would have a full 24 hours to get back in fighting condition. And obviously his body failed him, and it's a shame. It's a shame. And, in a lot of...
It's a shame too, Billy. But, especially at the championship level, when guys are really getting up there, hey, look, these are modern times now. They need to employ dietitians, people who know about diet, people, you understand, conditioning experts. There are plenty of them out there, okay? If this is a professional sport, this is what you need. Most of your professional athletes, other sports, baseball, football, they have dietitians, they have weight trainers, they have people who know about weight gain, weight loss, and how to control it. This is the way to go. But this nonsense that's going on now with weigh-ins taking place 2 and 3 days before the event, they had some of the crazy stuff that goes on in the MMA with weights is really off the hook. But my opinion is that we should go back to the morning of weigh-ins, and you'll see many of these crazy problems diminish.
Oh, I agree, and that's something that could possibly go back. One last thing, and we got a few minutes only here, but one last thing, and let me start off by saying, no disrespect to you, Larry, because you happen to be part of a lot of these, but I think that just like we talk about championship belts diluting champions and the way we value these belts, it's starting to happen with Halls of Fame. Now, of course, in boxing, the International Boxing Hall of Fame is the main one. I know you're part of that. You're part of New Jersey's Boxing Hall of Fame, and congratulations on the induction into the Atlantic City Hall of Fame. We got Nevada Hall of Fame. We got Las Vegas Hall of Fame. We got all these Hall of Fames, right? Which are fine, and I don't mind having each state have a Hall of Fame for their specific sport to honor athletes and that have accomplished above and beyond and represent their states or sports accordingly. However, the Alabama Boxing Hall of Fame just started, and they had their inaugural class, and among the inductees was none other than Deontay Wilder. And, they put a little, for his amateur career, they put him in. Now, that kind of bothered me, Larry. And the reason is Halls of Fame, whether people think there's too many of them or not, should be after an athlete's career is over, especially for a participant. If it was somebody that was a ringside doctor or somebody else, different story, because they go on well beyond, an athlete's career. Deontay Wilder's still competing. It's almost like, they're already accepting that he won't accomplish what he says he's going to accomplish as a pro. I mean, what do? They add it to the plaque after if he accomplishes what his goal is to unify all the titles and retire undefeated and do all these things he says he's going to do. I just think that Halls of Fame for the participants anyway have to take place after their career is over. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you make a very good point, Billy, for participants, and especially when a competitor becomes a professional. Someone of Deontay's caliber, I would think that they would love to wait until after, because he would more than likely certainly qualify, after his career is over. But for him to be going into a Hall of Fame for his amateur accomplishments, like you say, then what are you going to do? Add his professional accomplishments after? I think that it would have been of greater service and of greater honor to him to just wait until his career was over. I would have, would think that he would have even wanted, to wait. But, like you say, Hall of Fame, they're great things. It's a great feeling for people to recognize your accomplishments, But, what can I say? I don't know. I'm a little hesitant on being too critical of those types of organizations, because they're meant to be good things.
No, I listen, I agree with that. My point in this case is that if it was the Alabama Amateur Sports Hall of Fame or amateur, then hey, he's the most decorated amateur to come out of Alabama, but you got Joe Louis was inducted too. Evander Holyfield was born in Alabama. I mean, you could throw him in the mix. I mean, these are guys that you got to, when you're a participant, in this case in boxing, when you're fighting, you wait till the career's over. Deontay's, if he accomplishes half of what he says he's going to accomplish, he's still got several years ahead of him. I mean, it's almost like you're doing him a disservice. You're capping him out. And
that was my point. That was my point.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It kind of. My point. My point about devaluing it. It's you're kind of closing the book on a guy that the book is still being read. I mean, let's see how the ending goes. I mean,
that was my point. It seems like you're kind of like cutting him short,
right?
And to use the word amateur, but it almost also looks like no disrespect to the Alabama Hall of Fame, but it also almost looks like they're having trouble finding people. When you have to reach for somebody, you're reaching all the way to the top with your first induction. You're going all the way to the top to get the heavyweight champion, and then you're putting him in under his amateur resume. I mean, it's kind of confusing.
Well, I think the underlying listen, I know what the underlying reason is. If it wasn't for Deontay Wilder, no one would even think of Alabama as having any boxing. I mean, he was instrumental in bringing the commission there so he could fight there. I get it. I understand. But again, these are all things that go on the plaque when he's done. When he's done with his career, he brought boxing to Alabama. He was the most decorated amateur. He was a world heavyweight champion. He retired with X record. All of these things. So now, I mean, you can't induct him again. You can't have, you can't say, can't say after his career is over, hey, we know he got inducted in the inaugural class, but, now that his pro career is over, we're going to induct him again. We're going to give him another plaque. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, man. It just seems very confusing to me. And, it just seems like, they were trying to find a way to honor him, and they could have honored him very easily by having him as a special guest and future. Yeah. They could have even labeled him a future Alabama boxing Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? I mean, it just didn't make sense to me. I was just curious what your thoughts were, since you have had to add an addition onto your house to add all your Hall of Fame trophies in there. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of strange.
Yeah. Well, I agree. So
I like the Atlantic City. I like the Atlantic City one. At first, I wasn't crazy about states having different halls of fame, like when Nevada had one, and then all of a sudden they have the Las Vegas Hall of Fame, and New Jersey has a very successful Hall of Fame, and now they have the Atlantic City. But for boxing specifically, you're talking about, places that were instrumental in the history of the sport, like Atlantic City and Las Vegas, and not to give anybody ideas, but even New York City, could have eventually branch off. But, I mean, those are different stories. That's where the majority of these famous fights were held, so it makes sense there. But Alabama? Joe Namath's from there. I mean, Joe Namath played for college there, Bear Bryant. I mean, but we're not talking boxing, But anyway. Hey, Larry, I appreciate your time, my man. And we'll be talking. I pretty much know who we're going to be talking about, who won next week. But, hey, you never know. Like you said, maybe there'll be a competitive. The fight I think is going to be more competitive than people think is the Gervonta Davis and Leon Walsh fight over in the UK. I mean, let's face it, Gervonta Davis really has only fought one major fight, and it was his last one. So he is in a tough fight, and he is traveling, and that one ought to be a good one.
Yeah, that I look forward to that one. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to talk about one of them next week, brother.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I mean, our sport has been known for those types of surprises. So let's hope for one this weekend.
I agree. Larry, thanks for your time, my man. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, Billy.
Take care. Take care, brother. That's Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazzard. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll get Sal back on, and I got some other stuff to talk about, including some listener emails and a bunch of other stuff. We'll be back in about 2 minutes or so, I would think. So don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Exercise year-round against a smooth current set to your desired pace and temperature. With our new underwater treadmill, you can walk or run without stressing your joints. Endless pools are simple to install and even simpler to maintain. The water stays crystal clear with almost no chlorine. Call for your free idea kit and experience the freedom of swimming at home.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to The Billy C. Show. Glad you could join us. And I'm glad to see you're back, Sal. I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, well, he doesn't have his camera on, but
I forgot.
I realized that you came in at the last minute, so that's good. Hey, speaking of bad luck, not that we were, but last night I decide that I want to, I got a deck, and we had the deck put on years ago, and I never really sealed it or anything, and it's in the sun, so it takes a beating. It's solid. It's not going anywhere, of course, but it was looking a little ratty. So I decided to treat it, with the sealer, right? So I'm watching the weather. And the weather says it's going to be nice. As a matter of fact, it's going to get in the high 80s today and as high as 90 tomorrow here in New York. And no rain in sight till Sunday. Actually, there was a 30% chance of rain, I think, on Sunday, but no rain in sight. And the directions on the sealer says, it's got to be, from 40 degrees to 80 degrees. It can't be in direct sunlight, and it's got to be dry. You got to have it dry for at least preferably 48 hours, but, no less than 30. So I said, hey, I'm going to do it. So last night, the sun was down. I go out there. I roll the stuff on. I was proud of myself. Didn't make too much of a mess, I do have a little golden tinge to me today on my hands from all the stain. This morning, I'm sitting there, I get up at 4 a.m, so I was, when you get to be my age, you get up and run to the bathroom a couple of times during the night, and I was tossing and turning last night around 2 a.m, and all of a sudden it starts pouring. I'm like, can you believe it? So this morning I'm looking at it, and it just looks like it's a wet. I can't win sometimes, Sal. What do you think?
I tell you, I don't know, but when it rains, it pours.
There you go. Hey, you remember Mike Lee, the guy from Subway, who was also posing as a fighter?
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, he was doing the Subway commercials. He's actually, I think he was a collegiate champion. I'm pretty sure Notre Dame was the college he went to. But anyway, he's 19-0 with 10 knockouts as a light heavyweight, and he's finally coming back in the ring. He's a guy that really didn't need money from fighting, but June 23rd he returns to the ring, and he's taking on a guy that's got a similar record. He's 19-0 with 10 knockouts, and Aaron Quattarucci is 10-1-1. So we'll be looking for the return of Mike Lee. So I know you're on the edge of your seat for that one.
I am, and I will look forward to seeing Mike Lee and what he can do and how he looks in the ring. So we will see.
Well, we got some sports and some emails and stuff. So let's get people caught up on that, Sal.
Yes,
First
sir.
and foremost, in the sports world, in the NBA Finals, the Warriors are battling the Spurs for the Western division, or the West Coast representation of the NBA, to play the East versus the West. And the Warriors took a 2-0 lead over the San Antonio Spurs by beating the snot out of them last night, 136-100. Over in the NHL, the Nashville Predators beat the Quack Quack Ducks 2-1, and they lead that series 2-1. So we'll see what happens there. Now we know in the NBA, the Eastern Finals are going to be between the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. A lot of people are picking a rematch of last year's NBA Finals between the Warriors and the Cavaliers. So we'll see what happens. Over in Major League Baseball, the Braves beat the Blue Jays 9-5. The Tampa Bay Rays over the Indians 6-4. The Nationals over the Pirates 8-4. The Orioles and the Tigers, what a slugfest this was. 13 innings before the end was decided. Yeah, that's the word. 13-11, the Orioles beat the Tigers. Astros, 12-2 over the Marlins. Astros have the best record in baseball, Sal. 28 wins and 12 losses.
Wow.
Rangers beat the Phillies 5-1. Cubs over the Reds 9-5. Rockies over the Twins 7-3. Red Sox over the Cardinals 6-3. Your boys, the Yankees beat the Royals 7-1. The Mets lost again, but I'm done with them. Diamondbacks 5, Mets 4. Angels and White Sox took 11 innings to get a winner in that one, and the Angels came out on top 7-6. The A's over the Mariners 9-6. Brewers over the Padres 6-2, and the Giants upset the Dodgers 2-1. So that's what took place in some other sports. Got some emails. You ready for some emails?
Let's do it. Let's read them up.
Jesse says, hey, Billy C. and Sal, I do believe the Conor versus Floyd fight will happen. But even if they agree with the fight, have they even checked with the commission if they will allow it? Shouldn't they be checking with the commission first? He's got some other issues here. And
Good
Sal,
question.
I would think that they would have checked. That's a great question.
That's a great question.
Because
it reminds me of something else.
Because I don't think that any commission would approve it. But I would agree that they would have to. If it's a big fight like this, wouldn't you reach out to the commission first?
I think that would have been the natural progression. You're talking about a fight, but maybe that's why they know something we don't know. I don't know. Maybe they have some backdoor approach. Who knows? But yes, you're right. And that is a great, great, great question, because you would think that on that level that they would get pre-approved by a commission to say, hey, yes, we will sanction this bout and we will let it happen. But, that's neither here or there. It's over there.
Well, first of all, I've been a licensed promoter and I've promoted many fights, and part of the procedure is to obtain a date. A commission won't even talk to you until you've obtained a date. Once you obtain the date and a location of the fight, and the date has to be approved by the commission, the location has to be approved by the commission, and then all your fights have to be approved by the commission. So I could conceivably see how they didn't start the commission process if they don't even have an agreed upon fight yet, which is the case.
Location, right.
Which is the case between McGregor and Mayweather. According to Dana White, president of UFC, they have reached an agreement with McGregor as far, because remember, McGregor's part of the UFC, so he's got to conform to the UFC rules. So they've come up with an agreement. Now it's up to the UFC to cut a deal with Mayweather, which, Dana White, no disrespect to him, but he's never had a deal with negotiation process with the group like Floyd Mayweather, Team Mayweather, because they want everything. So I don't know, but
interesting.
I don't know if the fight will happen. Anyway,
I'm hoping it doesn't.
I'm hoping it doesn't, unless it's an exhibition. If it's an
exhibition's fine.
I'm all for it.
Or if Mayweather goes into MMA, that's fine.
Well, that I would love.
Scenarios would be great.
That I would love. There would be nothing more that I would love to see Mayweather on the canvas getting his face punched out by Conor McGregor. I would love every minute of it. As a matter of fact, I would record it and watch it every day, 100 times. No one can't stand him more than me. And the thing is I think I dislike the human being. You know how, like, I talk negatively about Deontay Wilder's boxing career, but as a human being, I like Deontay. Deontay's a guy I would like to hang with. You know, I mean, right. You know, he would be a guy I would like to be seen with. You know, as far as Floyd Mayweather, no way. You know, I mean, yeah, it's the reverse. I respect Floyd's accomplishments as a fighter, but as a human being, I think he's the scourge of the earth. Beating up women, beating up pimply-faced security guards, not taking time to spend time with the fan base. I mean, he fleeces his fans. But anyway, enough about me and Floyd. He says, Jesse says, I thought Parabim was out boxing Anvi. Anvi. I'm going to say Anvi. It's Avni. Is I think how you spell it. Avni Kutsia. Seems to follow his opponents, then doesn't cut him off. He looks slow and throws his punches far away and slow. A very good boxer will knock him out. You know, this boils down to what Sal and I say all the time, Jess, and that is that these fighters aren't getting the right fights on the way up, so they're not getting better and better. I mean, this is what you learn, you know. By fighting good competitive fights, Sal, earlier in your career, you get educated how to fight like this. You know, a guy that's a top contender or even a champion that doesn't know how to cut the ring off. I mean, what can you say to that?
No, it shouldn't. He shouldn't be in that ring at that stage, not knowing how to cut off a ring and handle some things. And that's what you do in the amateurs. You get that experience.
You know, it reminds me. I was at a wedding this weekend, and one of the best man was making a speech, and it was his brother.
What do you mean one? How many best men did they have?
Well, actually, there was a backup best man, but that's a whole other story. But at this particular wedding, the best man was the brother of the groom, and he says he stands up and does his little speech, and he says, you know, and he looks at his brother and he's going, you know, when we were kids, we used to play basketball a lot, and I beat your ass all the time, he says, you know, and he says, you know, you'd always get depressed and all of this. He says, and, you know, one day he goes in and, you know, the groom was upset, and the mother of these two yelled at the older son and said, you know, why don't you ever let him win? Why can't you let him win once? And the best man responds, well, he won't get better if I let him win. And he goes on to say that it was shortly after that the groom finally won and hasn't lost since, that he's just been beating his older brother. And I kind of chuckled to myself, Sal, because it's true in boxing too. Just like sports, you know, if you're constantly playing the worst team, you don't get a chance to get better. You don't learn how to elevate your game. And it's not any different in boxing. If you're constantly fighting a heavy bag that doesn't hit back or doesn't challenge you, doesn't reach into your bag of tricks or even have you purchase another trick, you're never going to get better, right?
That's 100% true. I mean, and that's the whole thing. You take what's a negative and you turn it into a positive. And that's why you go back into the gym and you learn. You learn what you're having trouble with. You learn what you got beat by. You learn whatever you can do. You ask the questions. You have a trainer that's astute enough to acknowledge the fact that this is where we have to bring you. Your skill level's got to go up here. And if you don't have the ability, the heart, the desire, then you fail away. But if you do, then you're going to capitalize on it. You're going to make it happen. You're going to turn it around. You're going to become better. You're going to become polished. You're going to become more refined and experienced. That's what they call it, experience.
Okay. Yeah, we should.
A little too much.
I think you carried down a little too far. But anyway, let's
all right.
Let's move it right along here, Sal. He says, Jesse says to me, "Hey, Billy C, what's your thoughts on Derek Webster and Jaron Enos?" Well, Webster is a super middleweight. He's 34 years old as a super middleweight, which I know today's age, today's world, age is a number, with our nutritional advances and exercise techniques that we have. I mean, older fighters can definitely still be competitive and fight longer than they used to yesteryear. But still, he's 34 in a division that isn't as friendly as a heavyweight, let's say. He's 23-1 with 12 knockouts. Now, I happen to think that the computer ranking systems, for the most part, for the IBO boxing has, I think, the best computer ranking system, and then BoxRec, I think for the most part they're pretty accurate. And the computer ranks Webster at number 56, so I think that tells you where he is in the eyes of the computer, and that's just in the super middleweight division, which doesn't really have a ton of guys in it. He is a southpaw, and he is tall. He's 6'4". His last win was probably the best win of his career. He beat Frankie Filippone this past weekend. He did fight Arif Magomedov, and Magomedov was probably, between him and Frankie Filippone, the two best opponents, but he lost. I think what you have in Derek Webster is, whether he did it or whether somebody got wind of him and turned him pro, whatever, he's what I would call an opponent, but not a career opponent, not a journeyman opponent. This is a guy that they're building up for a payday cash-out fight. At 23-1 with 12 knockouts, coming off a win, winning a secondary title, this is a guy that's going to be attractive to a world champion who wants one of these showcase fights. And I think that what we're going to find with Derek Webster is that he's going to get a big, high-profile fight at some point and make a very good payday, and then that's the end. That's his goal. His goal, I think, and he's probably been sold a bill of goods that he could be a champion, et cetera, et cetera. But I think at the end of the day, his biggest accomplishment will be challenging for a world title. That's my thoughts on him. As far as Jaron Enos, he's an 11-0 welterweight with 9 knockouts. This kid is 19. I think he's a really good prospect. He's a guy to watch and pay attention to. His last 3 opponents were all good ones. Eduardo Flores, James Winchester, and Elvin Perez. And by the way, they all happened this year, Sal. He's already fought 3 times in 2017. He fought 8 times last year when he turned pro in 2016. This is a kid to keep an eye on. His name is Jaron Enos. I mean, fighting 3 times already this year, 8 times last year. That's huge for fighters of this era. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great. No, it's fantastic. And that's a guy honing in on his skill. At that level, coming up like that, you do have more fights in between. You don't need the amount of time to recover. You're starting 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, 10-rounders. And as you elevate yourself up, then you might be taking breaks in between a little longer. But that's fantastic. I love the fact that you have the momentum. And believe me, because that's how you work off ring rust. That's how you keep the ring rust from even getting into your picture, your scheme of things, and your agenda. You keep active. That's it.
What do you got over there? What are you hanging some boxing shoes up in there now?
You saw that?
Yeah.
I found those. Those are the ones I wore in my comeback fight.
Jeez, they look like.
Do you like those?
They look like something Puss in Boots would wear. I mean, geez, come on. No, they look like they're velvet or something. They don't. I thought they were old school shoes in your fight.
I tried to get them. I used to fight. Can I mention the brand?
No. Okay. Go ahead.
All right.
Everlast, right?
I used to have, it was called the Boxing Boot by Adidas. And I still have some of the old ones. And I love that shoe. I love that shoe. It was a boot because it came up to the bottom of your calf. It had the rubber bottom. It fit me perfectly. And when I went online and I talked to all the boxing outlets and everything else, nobody had this boot anymore. They stopped making it. And what it evolved to was a less attractive boot. Not physically, but how it felt on my feet. I think I bought probably 15 pairs of boxing shoes to try them on and work with them. And I couldn't find anything that really felt like it would hug my foot. The sole was wide enough because I got duck feet. I got wide feet. Don't forget about it. And that boot right there was the one. It was a Nike, which usually fits smaller anyway, but it's a larger model. So it fit me fine, and it worked fine, and I felt like I had the legs of a 25-year-old when I went in the ring, and I did.
Well,
because of that boot. Not really, but it was a good boot.
I'm ready to give you the boot in a minute here.
I know. Where are we going with this?
We got another email. This one's from my man Joel, and Joel says, "Hey Billy C, with the 4 events on Saturday night, being Crawford, Diaz, Russell Jr., Escandon, David Benavidez against Porky Medina, and Davis against Walsh. Which are you and Sal most looking forward to?" Now, he's got some other questions, but I'll start with you, Sal. Of those fights, which ones do you like the most?
I'm going to be looking at the Terence Crawford fight the most.
I think that fight we'll all be able to see the most. Yeah. I love watching Terence Crawford. He's one of my favorite fighters, so I'll like that fight. But as far as competition, the David Benavidez and Porky Medina fight is probably going to be pretty competitive.
Yes.
It's funny we didn't get the line on that one, but and Gervonta Davis and Leon Walsh, that fight I think is going to surprise people. Davis is a young fighter that really thinks who he is. I mean, he's talking like this kid has been around forever. He's got more tattoos on him than a tattoo parlor has, And from what I'm hearing, Floyd Mayweather, who he fights under the Mayweather promotion banner, is taking more of an active role with him in terms of game plan. And as a matter of fact, like we were saying yesterday, Gervonta Davis was mentioning that he doesn't listen to his corner. He only listens to Floyd Mayweather. Now, I think that in itself is bringing a lot of chaos into this fight. You got a young kid who's never really been there. He's never fought in front of a hostile crowd, which he will be definitely fighting in the UK. Leon Walsh is the hometown guy there. So there's one strike. Number two, if you're not going to be listening to your corner and you're going to be looking to Floyd Mayweather for advice, that may not work out for you. Now, Floyd was training him the whole time. I wouldn't be saying that. But if Floyd is in there as an advisor and giving him some suggestions and stuff like that, that may confuse a young fighter who just doesn't have the rounds under his belt yet. From what I understand, Leon Walsh has been obsessed with dethroning, so to speak, Gervonta Davis. And a lot of times when fighters have all these people in their ears telling them how great they are, they're believing their own press clippings, they need a rude awakening. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens this weekend to Gervonta Davis. Now, don't get me wrong. Gervonta Davis is an extremely talented young fighter, and I look forward to him as he progresses with his career. It's just that he may be biting off more than he can chew. So I'm looking forward to that one. And as far as the Russell Jr. Escandon fight. Gary Russell Jr. is an exciting fighter, but when he fought what's his name, the kid that everybody loves. I'm going blank here, and he lost. It showed me that he's not fighting these guys that he's fighting, like Escandon and some of the guys that he fought. Are less than stellar, and when he fights the top guys, he comes up short, and Escandon is a showcase fight for him, and I think the odds, show it, 100-1. So I'm looking forward to, like you, I want to see Crawford. I always like watching him fight, but as far as competitive fights, David Benavidez and Porky Medina, and the Davis and Walsh fight. And by the way, thanks for Joel rattling my old memory. Vasily Lomachenko, of course. I mean, everybody loves Lomachenko, and he was the guy that beat Gary Russell Jr., so thanks for saving me there. Joel says, in regards to your topic of the day yesterday, he says, I still feel that Conor versus Floyd will never happen. It's an absolute joke of a fight, and I agree with you guys that Conor will be an easy 50th win for Floyd if it were to happen. I hope we can put this story to rest because, again, it'll never happen. I hope Joel is right. We've talked about this a lot, Sal, and I hope it doesn't happen as a 50th fight. As a crossover fight and as a competitive interest level and exhibition, I'm all for it. What do you think?
That's exactly where I stand. I mean, I'm sitting now, but where I stand.
I was just going to say, it doesn't look like you're standing now, but you beat me to it.
To the pun.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I'll tell you what. No, I think exactly what you said. If it's a crossover fight and Floyd wants to put his foot in the pond with the MMA, go right for it. I think that's fantastic. And you know what? I will root for Floyd. And if it's just an exhibition, I would love to see that. That would be fine as well. If it doesn't count on the record, it's a nice exhibition. That would be entertaining. That would be fine. Maybe they could have an exhibition, a showcase exhibition before the Canelo Alvarez and Triple G fight. What do you think about that?
Oh, I would love that because to have Floyd as a prelim. Come on, now Floyd would never do it. He would never do it. Hey, listen, let's take a short little break, and then when we come back, I got the rest of this email and some other stuff. So don't go nowhere, Sal, and. Don't you guys go anywhere because we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Tell me, Kenny, how is it you rub my belly so fine with that secret rub of yours? And don't even tell me what you're gonna do next. I love you, Kenny Bear. Tell me, Kenny baby, what you gonna do next?
Kenny Bear's Old Florida Barbecue Rub and Seasoning. Grab a bottle today.
This message is for all Americans that owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS. Look, I know you want to keep ignoring those letters, but the problem isn't going away. It's really stressful, and you don't know where to turn.
The good news is you have rights, and we can help resolve your IRS problems.
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, our qualified CPAs, tax negotiators, and support staff know the law and know how to get your situation under control legally and permanently.
Call the number on your screen now and we will contact the IRS on your behalf, help you end wage garnishments, stop collection calls, remove tax liens, get rid of IRS and state tax penalties, and reduce the amount you owe if you qualify. You wouldn't go to fix your car without going to a mechanic, so why face the IRS without an experienced company that can help you?
Let us take the stress of back taxes and the IRS off your shoulders so you can spend time on the important things in your life, like your family or your business. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, call now and find out how we can help you.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us today. And with me now is my man Sal Rocky Senecola. And I don't know, Sal, I don't think the fight's going to happen, but they got some suggestions in the chat room. So, and by the way, if you're watching or listening live, don't forget to check out the chat room. The one that we respond to and monitor is up on BillyCBoxing.com. But Joel's last comment here was, he says, have you heard about that Chinese heavyweight, Junlong Zhang? I see he's ranked in the top 30 by the computer, but at 35 years old and fighting below average competition. I was curious if you knew anything about him or if this Chinese heavyweight has a future at all. I saw he's ranked definitely in the top 30. He's ranked at number 28. He is 35 years old. He's 6'3.5". He's undefeated, 17-0, all coming by knockouts. He does have wins over some journeymen, tough guys in the heavyweight division. George Arias is one of them. Julio Cesar dos Santos is another one who used to fight at a lower weight class. I'll get to that in a second. And Pedro Otas was his last fight, and Otas is 30 wins and 3 losses as a heavyweight, or he's fighting in the heavyweight division now. It's funny, a professional fighter who's 30 wins and against only 3 losses, and I've never heard of Pedro Otas. Julio Cesar dos Santos was fighting in a much lower weight class when he fought this guy Zhang. He was 220 pounds, 220 and a half pounds. So obviously they're moving him along. I think this guy is very similar to what we were saying before. I think they're just trying to get him a shot. I don't think he's ever going to be anything. Here's why, Sal. When he turned pro in 2012, he weighed 200 pounds for his fight. I mean, just squeaked in as a heavyweight. You know what he's weighing now?
No.
He's weighing over 280 pounds. That's what he's weighing now.
Wow,
so in 4 years, he puts on 80 pounds, and it doesn't look like it's all solid muscle either. I don't know, man. The heavyweight division, Sal, what makes it so great is that, knockout's a knockout, and he does have 17.
That's pretty impressive right there. Absolutely. Wow. Well, he's got a little weight to put behind that punch,
Yeah, he's got a little weight, but I don't know if it's really going to help him or not. But anyway, thanks for all the emails. We certainly appreciate it. And speaking of heavyweights, there was a fight scheduled between Derek Chisora and Robert Halinas. It was going to be taking place in Finland, where Halinas is from. And we all know Derek Chisora isn't exactly the most refined heavyweight, but he comes to fight, and he's fun to watch. The fight was rescheduled. They announced it yesterday, and it was supposed to take place at the end of this month, May 27th, but it's been rescheduled, and they haven't given it a date yet or an event. But they said, and Sauerland Events is the promoter. They said that they're going to tell you where the new location and date is. But anybody that's already bought tickets for the scheduled May 27th date, don't worry about it. Your tickets are still going to be good. I'm assuming it's going to be in the same area. I don't know what the reason was, Sal. But when this happens, from my experience working with promoters and promoting fights myself, I think this is an indication that the ticket sales were not going so well. What do you think?
No, I think exactly what you just said. You can judge right off the bat, if the sales are not going to be moving. And no promoter wants to wait till the last minute to try and generate sales.
Well, the other issue is, in boxing, the biggest mistake that a lot of promoters, especially first-time promoters, make, not that Sauerland Events is a first-time promoter by any stretch of the imagination, is you can never, I know this doesn't sound hard to believe or even accept, but as a promoter, you can't use ticket sales as your source of revenue to pay your fighters' purses and all the other expenses that surround your event. The ticket sale end, most of the time, is the profit. you need to secure sponsorships and other forms of revenue prior to ticket. If you're relying on ticket sales to pay the bills for the expense of the fight, you're never going to make out, and you're never going to, you're going to be behind the eight ball. I'm not saying that, and Sauerland Events is an established promotional team. They don't need ticket sales to pay the bills. But that's certainly what's screaming at me for this fight. But we'll wait and see. Who knows? Maybe one of them went off the deep end because you never know. Chisora sometimes, if he's not into a fight, he doesn't train. So maybe they realized that he wasn't prepared to fight. I don't know. But speaking of heavyweights again, Dillian White, a heavyweight that we talk about a lot on this show, was scheduled to fight Moritz Wach. Now, if you recall, Wach did challenge for a world heavyweight title and then tested positive for steroids, and he was banned for a while, did his time, and he's coming back. They were scheduled to fight in London on June 3rd. But apparently Dillian White has injured himself, Sal. A foot injury has put off the fight, and they will most likely be fighting in July. So they will announce the new date soon. And again, this fight, the promoter of this fight is Eddie Hearn. And he said that we are definitely having this fight. And we're hoping that the fight will take place sometime in July. And that this fight, the winner of this fight, should get a world heavyweight title shot. And he said, don't worry about it. Anybody that's purchased tickets for this particular fight that was canceled due to an injury to Dillian White. He says, unlike Sauerland, who said that those tickets can be used for the fight, in this case, he says, go get your money back. So I don't know what that's telling me, man. A lot of injuries in this sport in the last couple of years, Sal.
A lot, absolutely. I know. It happens.
It just seems like there's too many sometimes, I mean, I don't know what it is. A foot injury. I mean, what was he playing? Basketball?
I think he tried to cross-train with soccer.
What makes you think that, Sal?
It's a foot injury.
Oh, I see.
Could have happened. He could have been bowling. He could have dropped the bowling ball on it. I'm going to tell you something. It's so funny because my trainer, like I said, I came from literally the old school. The old school. All right. In high school, I was big in sports. Loved football, loved wrestling. Did very well in wrestling. And boxing, of course. Did some pole vaulting, played some baseball, loved it all. Loved it. And but my trainer, great guy, gave me a lot of confidence in those early years in my developmental stage. And he said to me, Sal, you've got to realize these other sports, as much as you like them, you've got to remember, if you're going to be a fighter, you've got to just worry about being a fighter. And the crossover sports are great for training and everything else, but you can get injured. And you've got to look at yourself as a shell, and you got to be a protective shell as far as what you do and how you do it. And that never left me. And, you still get injuries, sure. You still twist an ankle. You still do things here and everything else. But you got to take precaution. You got to be careful in certain things you do because you have to be that commodity that steps in a ring, that's dependable, that you sign a contract, you sign a date, and you count from that date backwards for your training regimen. You got to, watch, you got to watch your moves. You got to be careful what you do.
Yeah, boxing's... It's just like a shell game, man.
It's a shell game. I was going there. My mind went there when I said, like, the shell. I pictured that on a table. I was playing a shell game.
Well, listen, it's time for our trivia question. Now, the one that we couldn't get a right answer for, I'm not going to give you the answer. I don't know. What do you think, Sal? You think I should give him one more hint, or should I move on? Because I do have another question.
I'm all about hints, man. I'm telling you. Maybe the era. When was this era? Was it contemporary? Was it in the 70s, the 80s? Was it 1840? What was it? Sorry.
So is that what you think? You think I should give him one more hint? Is
Maybe
that what we're
the decade. How about the decade?
No, I can't give him just a decade, but I can. All right, I'll give him another hint. I'll give you another hint. So here. Okay, Sal saved you one more day, Kevin. But okay. So the question is, which former world champion lost the most title fights? Which former world champion lost the most title fights? Now, I've already given you some hints. I said that he fought two of these opponents twice each. So four of the. Now, you already know that there's 4 fights against 2 guys. The other opponent I said, the other hint I gave you was of all of these championship fights that he lost, he was stopped 4 times.
Wow.
I'll give you, I'll tell you what, I will give you a range of the era in which the fights took place. All of these fights that the title fights took place, I'll give you a range. So I'm not saying that the fighter didn't go beyond the range, and I'm not saying he was below the range. I'm just going to give you the range at which the fighter fought, okay? He fought, these title fights that he lost went from 1990 to 2010.
Wow.
So this guy fought in these fights
from
1990 to 2010, this collection of fights he lost. So here's the question again. Which world champion lost the most fights? The hints are he fought 2 of his opponents twice, obviously losing them both. And of all the fights that he lost for the title, he was stopped 4 times. And he fought all of these championship fights between 1990 and 2010. Sal, you have any ideas on who this person is now?
I was going to say Jack Dempsey, but I can't do that.
You can't do that now. But
I'll tell you what, it's got to be a great. It's got to be a damn good, durable fighter for 20 years losing.
Well, he's
at it.
20 years of losing. You know, what you could say, he's a professional loser. No, that's not true. That's not true. Don't be talking smack about this guy. I mean,
no. What I'm saying is this guy's got to be a superstar. He's got to be up there. He's got to be elevated top echelon, because you're just mentioning some of the defeats happened in that time. But those title fights, actually those defenses or title fights have happened in that 20-year period of span. So that's an accomplishment right there. So I'm trying to think what fighter. I mean, it's got to be Jones or I don't know. Let's that's a good one. I'm gonna give it some thought, but I'm gonna come up with the answer tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Google the hell out of my computer.
Well, listen, if you know the answer and you're the first one to email me the correct answer, Billy at talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com. You'll win your very own copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game, the same game that Alex Papali uses for our Blast from the Past to do the simulations. Now, speaking of our Blast from the Past, we were scheduled to have it today, but Alex was a little under the weather, so we're going to do Nicolino Loche next week when we do our Blast from the Past. So which former world champion lost the most title fights? The hints are he fought 2 of his opponents 2 times each, so there's 4 fights. And of all of these fights, he was only stopped 4 times. And then the hint I've given you today, he fought these title fights between 1990 and 2010. If you know the answer and you're the first one to email me, Billy at talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win the prize. Now, don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We're going to have the author of a new book on Max Baer and Barney Ross, Jeffrey Sussman, will be joining us, and will be telling us about his book. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to read it, but he'll tell us all about it, and we'll be doing that. Obviously, we'll have Sal. We'll have all the latest boxing news. We may even open up the phone lines a little bit, and then Friday we'll give our breakdowns and predictions for the fights that are scheduled for this weekend, and Dax Khan will give you his as well. So we got a lot of stuff coming up, but I just want to leave you guys with this. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.